Hello, how's it going? Quentin, Agent Reads and Rambles, and I haven't uploaded in a while, so I figured I'll just get something out there, just kind of ramble on about what I've been reading. A lot of the stuff I'm actually not going to talk about in like full video form, just because, I'd like to go deep into something, and all these books right now, I don't really have it in me to go deep into them, even though some of them are just gorgeous. There are a couple, I'll mention them, but anyways, let's just get right into it. And sorry if I'm looking haggard. I did some drinking last night, and that's all that needs to be said about that. But I guess, about a week ago I went to Toronto. It was a blast. Listened to a lot of Elton John music with my mother. We split the driving. Drove for like 8 hours, 9 hours. It was great. Went to some of the used bookstores in Toronto. Went to the Monkey's Paw. Monkey's Paw is a great bookstore. Go there if you're in Toronto. They have this machine called the Bibliomatic. I'm not going to show it, but I got a book out of there. You basically put it in. You put a token in, and it gives you a random book that you can't know what it is. The first time I did it, I got the Green Murder Case by S.S. Van Dyne, which is an interesting book. Fascinating style. I didn't like it, but it was really enjoyable. But after that, I got a book on collecting and restoring early American furniture. So, whatever. That was cool, but I'm not gonna read it. The style is funny on that one too, because it was published in I want to say the 1920s. Anyways, I'm gonna talk about kind of the things I got down there that I'm most excited for. What I'm reading right now, I'll save, because I've been going back into Brautigan, and I've been reading more Brautigan, but I'm gonna save that for later. Get the other stuff out of the way. I feel like people might get bored when I talk about Brautigan, because I talk about him a lot. I have the tendency to talk about him a lot. But anyways, let's go. First thing I've been reading, I got this poetry collection at the Monkey's Paw, super obscure, very hipster. The actual poetry is not very hipster. Against the Cruel Frost by David Holbrook, and this is like a series of pseudo-confessional poetry about his marriage situation, very formal, very kind of bleak in spots, but the points of hope in here are actually quite striking. Don't get it. I looked on Amazon and stuff like that. Don't buy anything from Amazon anyways, but when I looked on Amazon, I saw that this would be like $30-40. I think it's 32 pages. I wouldn't say get it. I definitely wouldn't, but yeah. So sorry, my brain is not moving. But what the fuck was I just saying? Oh yeah, the hope, the note of hope in here is pretty interesting. Just one stanza. But the old gray rain's broken, and a sudden coup due to come with the cuckoo, only 6 weeks to go. Try all he can, no death grip binds the hope, where the snow bites at blossom up against the blue. That's nice. Also, talking about the children roll up emaciated snowmen by the brook. I particularly like this stanza in Night Song, the opening and closing stanza. Stack the cups and clear away, the bonfire sinks to ash. Daytime is so much trash. Night climbs the stairway. Yeah, I like this. I was gonna do a video on it, and I probably will at some point, just like a short, because just get a video out there. But this was pretty good. I read this in Toronto. Read it in like a couple days. I would like to return to it too. What else do we got? When I was in Toronto, some of the books I bought in Toronto was this one. I'm really excited. I read the first section. I was just wowed. The Pillow Book by Shōnagon. I'm sorry. That's a hard name for me to say, but I read the first section, just the writing. Whoever the translator is on this, I think I'll shout her out. Meredith McKinney, thank you. This is reads great, I think. And yeah, Shōnagon, yeah, whatever. Lived 966 to 1017, and somehow, I just find, I read the first like 3-4 entries when in the bookstore, and wow, it was great. It opens with just like 4 scene, the details of 4 scenes across in all the seasons. Opening line of the book: in spring, the dawn, when the slowly paling mountain rim is tinged with red, and wisps of faintly crimson purple cloud float in the sky. In summer, the night, moonlit nights, of course, but also at the dark of the moon, it's beautiful when fireflies are dancing everywhere in a mazy flight, and it's delightful, too, to see just 1 or 2 fly through the darkness, glowing softly. Rain falling on a summer night is also lovely. I don't know what it is with these diary-style works. Well, these diary works, is what this was. Just a court woman's diary, but I'm really gravitating towards them. They help me get my own journaling. I haven't read any from men that I thought were truly incredible, but Sylvia Plath's journals are just awesome food for thought, and like, just, it's like she couldn't write like a bad entry, but it's, and just always insightful. But Sylvia Plath's journals are great. I got the 2nd volume of Anais Nin's diaries, and she's an interesting figure. I want to keep working through her cycle of a novel. It's Cities of the Interior. Yeah. I finished 1 book in that, and I liked it, but it's just purple prose. But her diaries are great, and she's a fascinating figure. The Come As Your Madness Party, Google it. Really interesting. But say Shōnagon, the Pillow Book. This is awesome. I can't wait to read it. I plan on reading it soon, actually. Another thing I got in Toronto was this book, and I'm very... This book opened with a bang. I'm on page 35, and I'm going to mispronounce the name, I'm sorry, but I got Chernobyl Prayer. Chernobyl Prayer. I'm sorry. Chernobyl Prayer by Svetlana Alexievich. But this opens with just such a great section about a lady whose husband was like directly in the blast of Chernobyl, or he's in the radiation. I think he fought the radiation fires, and you know, she's pregnant, she refuses to go, and I guess like she refuses to stay away from him, and she basically comes to the conclusion that love is death, and she loses her daughter. It's bleak, but it's one of the things that, like, don't let that convince you that this is just a bleak book, that there's nothing really, that is just like a despair fest. Of course, that's part of what it is. And the 2nd section was awesome too, because it's not just bleak. Svetlana Alexievich is really painting the true gravity of the situation, and talking about how like history just can't be the same before and after. Time means something completely different. The general vibe is just way, way different. And she makes a convincing argument. But yeah, this is a passage. Yeah, the dude is in his hospital bed, and she always sneaks behind the plastic and kisses him and cuddles with him for the night. And very human. But one of the things, okay, what I was saying before, don't let, the topic convince you that it's just a despair fest, because you have beautiful passages like this. It was May 9th. He'd always said to me, "You have no idea how beautiful Moscow is, especially on Victory Day when they have the fireworks. I want to show it to you." I was sitting next to him in the room. He opened his eyes. "Is it day or night?" he said. 9 in the evening. "Open the window, the fireworks will be starting." I opened the window. We were on the 8th floor, the whole city spread out before us. A bouquet of fire shot into the sky. Wow, that's something. I promised I'd show you Moscow. I promised that I'd always give you flowers for every holiday. I turned round, and he pulled 3 carnations from behind his pillow. He'd given some money to a nurse to buy them. I ran over and kissed him. "My darling, my true love." He grumbled. "What did the doctors say? No hugging me, no kissing." They'd forbidden me to cuddle him or stroke him, but I lifted him and positioned him on the bed, smoothed the bed sheets for him, took his temperature, brought the bedpan, then took it away, wiped him down. All night long I was close by, watching over every move he made, every sigh. And just how this woman just like refuses to let the love go. and those moments where everything just seems okay for like 5 seconds. That section at times is quite uplifting, and just the sense of joy at, it's kind of fated for doom, but the sense of joy at just enjoying life in spite of it. And I love her tendency to reach past the despair and not revel and not wallow in the despair, and just to basically have these voices that there's more going on than despair in them. And then apart from that, I enter the second section of the book, and basically from there on, it's just a series of monologues about stuff, like about Chernobyl stuff. I haven't read it, but yeah, that's gonna be awesome. And I'm really enjoying it so far. The writing, it reads super smooth. I was worried about translation, how it might not read too cleanly. It reads clean, and it is pretty good. This one I didn't get in Toronto, but I have been reading it. I'm only done the first section. Portable 60s reader. Oh, I haven't touched my coffee. Sorry for the slurp. Portable 60s reader, edited by Ann Charters. I've only finished the first section. And it's been a crazy learning experience, I tell you. The chronology of the events in the 60s really helped, really were crazy to read. It was actually kind of thrilling to read, and it actually helps contextualize what's been going on recently. But yeah, it's just the general context. Part 1, struggling to be free, the civil rights movement. Part 2, the anti-Vietnam War movement. Part 3, free speech movement and beyond. Part 4, the counterculture movement. Part 5, drugs in the movement into inner space. Actually, with a section from Carlos Castaneda, who, one of my uncles, the only uncle that knows I have the YouTube channel. He's probably not watching, but Brent, send me some fucking music. How about that? But anyways, I'm sorry. But yeah, part 5, drugs in the movement to inner space. He told me about Carlos Castaneda, and I'd always assumed just weird pseudoscience. I don't want to get into that, but I read the foreword to his section from the Teachings of Don Juan, and the editor makes the argument that is, true or not, it's essential 60s reading. So I'm very excited for that. We got stuff from Lenny Bruce in here. Of course, the Beats. I'll read some of the stuff. Oh yeah, Living in the Revolution, the Beats, and some other literary movements at the edge. That's why I got this, because it was all about, for me, it was all about Brautigan. I wanted 60s collections that he was in, and he was in here with one of my favorite chapters from Troubleshooting in America, the Cleveland Wrecking Yard. It was awesome. Bob Kaufman, if you know Rap Prayer, you probably know Bob Kaufman. That's who Bob's son is. That's where the name comes from. Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Ginsberg, Bukowski. As if it's, anyone watch Corner Gas, where every time they're like Woolerton. That's how I feel about Charles Bukowski. Part 7, the Black Arts Movement and the Reshaping of Black Consciousness. Part 8, the Women's Movement and the Sexual Revolution. Of course, Plath and Sexton come up, but one of the things I'm excited about is all the other people I've never heard anything from. I'm really excited to get that. And Part 9, In Defense of the Earth, the Environmental Movement. Part 10 is just 10 elegies for the 60s. People like John Berryman are writing elegies for Sylvia Plath, and for Neil Cassidy, for Jack Kerouac, for Janis Joplin, for Martin Luther King, for Malcolm X, for JFK, for Marilyn Monroe, for Ernest Hemingway, all these people, right? They're not writing them, they're being elegized, celebrated. But anyways, what I'm talking about is I read the first section, Struggling to be Free, the Civil Rights Movement. We had Dangerous Road Before Martin Luther King, awesome, from James Baldwin. Martin Luther King, Letter from a Birmingham Jail, read it. Rosa Parks from My Story, Rosa Parks' My Story. Some of honestly, this section is just so valuable because it's just the sheer uncomfortability of some of the things, which is very, I think it's very important to be reminded about a lot of this stuff. And a lot of the commentary that's going on is just searing. Two sections of people that I'd never really heard of. Well, I've heard of Eudora Welty, but I never really decided to read her. But she has a short story in here called Where is the Voice Coming From? That is, she's trying to get in the mind of somebody who shot, I think a labor leader of the time, just when he got out of his car. And that is just a thoroughly harrowing section that I enjoyed reading, but it's deeply uncomfortable, and that's partly where the value comes from, is just because a lot of the best commentary of this should startle you. It really should, and that's true of Anne Moody. One of my favorite sections in here, from Coming of Age in Mississippi, where she talks about the protest being broken up, and all of the people from the protest, mostly the black people, but all the people were they were like, basically the police met them right away, and they were just put in like garbage trucks, and the heat was on, and just had to sit there, and they were brought to places with just, like, she describes them almost like they're concentration camps, but they're brought to places they're like wired in, and like, Jesus fucking Christ, like, oh my God, it just gets me pissed off. More sections, Bob Dylan, Lonesome Death of Hattie Carroll, one of my least favorite sections in here, actually. Calvin Trillin, Dudley Randall, Robert Lowell for the Union Dead, which has some good stanzas, but overall not one of my favorite Robert Lowell poems. Malcolm X, The Ballad of the Bullet, that's great. Alice Walker, awesome fucking sorry, I'm swearing too much. I've been drinking. Alice Walker, The Civil Rights Movement, What Good Was It? Just a brief 6-page section. And wow, is that ever a good essay? And she was like 23, I think, when she wrote it. Come on now. But yeah, and Charles Johnson from Dreamer. That was a great section. Really eye-opening experience, and I can't wait to keep going with this. Yeah, just an awesome thing. And even if the sections aren't good individually, you get the sense that you can really lean on Ann Charter's editing. And whether or not you like the individual section, the reason she's pulling it all together is there. And just awesome commentary, especially from some people that I've never read. Like, I never read Anne Moody, and I want to read more Anne Moody. Yeah. So, anyways, but then we're getting into the Richard Brautigan. Sorry. So I'll talk about them in order that I read them. I'm getting all this stuff in the individual volumes. And when I went to Toronto, I brought along his posthumous novel, An Unfortunate Woman by Richard Brautigan. And this is very much the work of somebody that is going to kill themselves, even more than So the Wind Won't Blow It All Away. Because that one, actually, I don't get much suicide from that one. Actually, I just get a very clear emotional state. But this one is very much about suicide. The main character is probably like as close to Brautigan as I think it gets in his books. But it's a character who is mourning the death of someone from cancer. He's also mourning someone who killed themselves, a woman who killed herself, I should say. And it's also one of Richard Brautigan's funniest books. One of his funniest books, bar none. There's a section, I read a section to my mom where and she was laughing, and my mom doesn't even really enjoy it. She's like, well, read something, and I was like, okay. So it's his character's journal, and he forgets what he's doing day to day. And when he doesn't pop into the journal for a little bit, he basically, mosquitoes. But when he doesn't remember what he's doing for a couple days, he beats himself up over it, and he's talking about forgetting what day it is, and he imagines himself that he's on trial for it, and all of the people on trial have watches on, and they all have shares in watch companies, and the judge hates him, and there's a rabbit with a clock on trial, wink wink, and under the rabbit's carrot breath, he's whispering, hang him, and he's hoping to get off with second-degree chronological negligence. That's hilarious. And just, it opens in a classic Brautigan way. I saw a brand new woman's shoe lying in the middle of a quiet Honolulu intersection. It was a brown shoe that sparkled like a leather diamond. Like a leather diamond? And because you could see it, but it's also, I don't know, but that's a great metaphor. But anyways, I'm going to talk about this later. I'm reading all of his books, and I'm getting the individual volumes for all his books, reading all of them so that I can do a video on him, on where to start with him. I'm going to wait till after I'm in school to do a video on just kind of talking about his style and what the project of each book is. But this one was great. I loved it. It's also one of the most deadpan of Brautigan's books, and he's getting a lot of mileage out of that deadpanness, where the main character, just the narrator, the way he writes, you think like, okay, well, this guy seems like a sane guy, but then one of the actions that he describes himself doing, you're like, no way this dude has his head on his shoulders. But yeah, also thoroughly touching in spots. Yeah, it's definitely top tier Richard Brautigan. Like, if I'm tier listing it, if not S tier, it's A tier for sure. The next one I reread So the Wind Won't Blow It All Away, and I was wowed again. This is another one. It's really funny, but it's also really sad. Again, the ending, my favorite passage in all of Richard Brautigan. And in every book, he's challenging your preconceptions about what a story is, about narration, certain things like that. Where this is a fascinating book, mostly because the main character's arc is actually very akin to Tyrone Slothrop's from Gravity's Rainbow, but it's achieved with such much simpler than that, and it's easier to read, I think. Easier to like understand the thematic utility of it than in Gravity's Rainbow, but just it reads more like a collection of short stories than it does a novel, actually. And it's just memories from this kid's life about what happened before he basically killed his friend by accident, and all the stories wind up going somehow to further this point. There's this refrain in the book. The refrain is, so the wind won't blow it all away. Dust, American dust. And it's just, every time, you know it's coming every time, but when it happens, it just says, oh. And all of the acts that this narrator is doing, so the wind won't blow it all away, are just so beautiful. And give you the sense of why he's writing, but I'll just read some of them. I'll continue on with this story, so the wind won't blow it all away. Dust, American dust. Yes, and I remember, so the wind won't blow it all away. Dust, American dust. Sometimes I would climb up in the apple tree and quietly weep, so the wind won't blow it all away. Dust, American dust. I stared at their absence. I stared at their silence, so the wind won't blow it all away. Dust, American dust. And some of the vignettes in here, that's very bleak, that refrain, but keep in mind that there is Brautigan's classic humor. And there are a lot of passages in here that I think are far funnier than I remember them being on first read. Superman makes an appearance and gives the kid a burger. Or no, he tells him, hey kid, go on, get a burger. And he's like, yes sir. And the Superman goes, hey, don't forget the onions. And the kid and the narrator goes, how do you know I like onions? He says, yeah, it's just that type of humor. Do you know what Inner Sanctum is? Inner Sanctum is like this old 1940s radio broadcast that is just really kitschy and really, although I could link it, but I'm not going to do that. But it's on YouTube. It opens with a creaky door like the, and then that creepy voice goes, hello, I've been expecting you. I want to talk about whatever mystery is happening. And then you get a mystery story. And the main character lives, he moves at one point and he moves beside a funeral home, and he's watching the funerals out the window in the morning, and he sees a kid die at one point, and he starts realizing that he could die. And he always plays with the Undertaker's daughter, and she always has cold hands, so he's really scared of her. And I guess he's getting into all this radio stuff. He's listening to Inner Sanctum, and they're talking about radio programs, and he was like, how creepy would it be to listen to Inner Sanctum in the funeral home? And so he goes up to her and he asks, do you like Inner Sanctum? And she's like, no. And he's like, what? You don't like Inner Sanctum? And it's a really funny passage where he's like, what are you talking about? You don't like Inner Sanctum? Are you serious right now? Right in the middle of a section where he's getting introduced to the idea that he can die. But yeah, he's interviewing fry cooks. He's posing as a journalist. He's interviewing fry cooks, actually. Yeah, just a lot of great. Little did I know that I would end up the same way very soon, so the wind won't blow it all away. Dust, American Dust. But anyways, I'm gonna stop reading it. Great book. Read it. I'll talk about it more in a larger picture Brautigan video. The last thing I'll talk about, I'm sorry to go on so long. Last thing I'll talk about is the Tokyo Montana Express by Richard Brautigan. A lot of parallels here with Kawabata's Palm of the Hand stories, Volman's The Atlas, stuff like those tiny little collections, like those micro stuff. Great stories in here, like Marching in the Opposite Direction of Pizza. One of my favorites, The Beacon's good. It's a story about a dude just driving by a dude who was thinking about jumping off a bridge. There's one called The Smallest Snowstorm on Record. That's a really good one. It's a story about 2 snowflakes falling, and that's it. 390 pictures of Christmas trees, where they go around taking 390 pictures of Christmas trees right after Christmas, and all of them are in the garbage. One of my favorites, The Irrevocable Sadness of Her Thank You, which is basically he's on a bus and there's a really cute Japanese girl on, and someone says a seat opens up, and he just says she's looking at him like, do you want the seat? And he says, no, you take it. And then someone else sits it in. She just says thank you, and she's really sad about it. And that was just like such a small story that has just so much emotion to it, so much heart. Yeah, there are just so many great ones in here, honestly. I say check it out, but check it out if you're a Brautigan guy, or if you like Kawabata maybe, but definitely read some before you buy it, because it's not for everybody, for sure. I don't really get all that's going on about the I voices in here being the voices of the stations on the Tokyo Montana Express. I don't know all that. What I do know is that this is a blast, an absolute blast to read. See if I can read part of one. Yeah, cat cantaloupe, werewolf raspberries. Actually, I'll read. That's like a 1-page. Yeah, werewolf raspberries. I'll read that story. Werewolf Raspberries, in brackets, with a Glenn Miller record playing in the background, perhaps Tuxedo Junction, which sounds like a Brautigan title, actually. And all you wanted to do is take your best girl out into the garden on a full moon night and give her a great big kiss. Too bad the raspberries were covered with fur and you couldn't see their little teeth shining in the moonlight. Things might have been different. If you had played your cards right, you could have been killed at Pearl Harbor instead. Late spring, 1940. That's the whole story. But I think it's really interesting, like talking about, first of all, the raspberries are furry. I mean, that's, it's a pretty standard way of describing it, but then you couldn't see their little teeth shining in the moonlight. Like the dew is like reflecting these like teeth glinting. It's weird, but I can really picture what it looks like just from that, but it's such a ridiculous metaphor. Also, it is really focused, but it's also like 2 paragraphs, and one of them is 1 sentence. But anyway, I'm gonna shut the hell up. I just wanted to upload something. This is not gonna be good, but it doesn't have to be good, and I'll see if I can, do more videos in the future. Peace out.